Welcome to this video. My name is Rajvir from Code and Compile, and in this video we're going to talk about ctrlX. From Rexroth, a Bosch company. ctrlX Core. Is it a PLC? Is it an OPCU device? Is it an MQTT broker? Or is it an edge device? What is ctrlX Core? That is what we're going to explore in this video. It's an all-in-one, ultra-compact control system for automation. But what does it mean? Let's check it out. So let's see what we have in this video. We start with ctrlX feature. When we say it's all-in-one ultra-compact control system, let's see what are the features, what it includes. We start with control architecture. It's based on real-time capable Linux. These days, we have seen many controllers are coming up with Linux operating system. And we know that when you have an operating system inside, we can scale up the applications. And another amazing feature of ctrlX, you can use open and app-based functionality. Now, this is the thing which I love about Bosch ctrlX. In this controller, you can install various apps just like you install apps in your mobile phone. So imagine you install an app of a PLC, then this controller acts as a PLC. If you want this controller to work as an OPCU server, just install the app and there you go. If you want to work it as an MQTT broker or MQTT client or whatever you can imagine in your application, just install the app and this controller is ready to use. If you want to know more about what kind of apps you can install in this controller, you can visit to ctrlX store where you will see a wide variety of apps and you can choose the one which you want to suit your applications. Not only that, it has a safe connection to IT level. Now when we say IT level, nowadays we also want to read the data from our controller to make data analytics. So if you see on this controller, we have 3 Ethernet ports. And because of this different ports, you can have different subnets. So you can define one port just to read the data from your PLC, from your IOs, or from your factory, and another port you can just use to visualize the data. In this case, your data subnets are different, and that's how it will provide you a safety. Besides that, you can also assign different users in your ctrlX Core, and these users can have different authorization to access the data. Hence, you can also define different users for different applications. So these are the 3 core features of this controller. So what we learn, it can be used for any purpose you want. Just check out the apps and then you can use it. It is secure and it has a Linux OS inside. Let's see what we more have in this presentation. CoreX login. Now we will start with login into this controller. Now you can see in my controller, at the moment, my controller is powered up. So I've given 24 volts to this controller. And to log into the controller, all you have to do is you have to just open the IP address of ctrlX Core. So in my ctrlX Core, my IP address is changed from this default IP address to 192.168.0.107. So I will open a browser and I will just open this IP address. Here we go. And now, because it's a local network, I have to confirm the safety. Now we have a login screen. Now in this login screen, you have to enter the username and password, and by default, my username is Bosch Rexroth, and my password is the same. So let me just log in into that, and now we are inside. This is my main home screen of ctrlX Core. So you can use your tablet, your phone, your laptop, your computer to access this server. Now on the left side, you will see various options, and you will see some of the apps which are already installed in this ctrlX. So in the home screen, you will see my main application, which is PLC, and this is the application we're going to talk about later in the video. And you have Manage App Data, Mosquito. So I have a Mosquito app already installed. I have a Node-RED app installed, and I can install more apps. So let's see when I click on Install More Apps, I have an options. So I have an option to install the app from a file, or I can directly install from the store. In this case, we have to notice that right now my controller is running and you can see a green LED on the controller. This means controller is in operation state. So to install the app, I just have to go to service mode and then there's a confirmation. And this will bring the controller to a service mode where now I'm allowed to uninstall or install more apps. So it will take a couple of seconds. Now my controller is in service mode and you can see that I have an option to uninstall the app or to install the apps. So this is just like you're using your mobile phone. It's super easy. So I will go back to my operation mode, and in this case, you will notice another confirmation. And on the controller, the light will change from blue to green. Okay, this will take a couple of seconds. And on the left side, let's go to the settings first. And you will see here, again, we have an option to manage the apps. And then you have an option to manage the licenses. When you buy an app, you also need to buy a license to use the apps. This is where you can control the license. You can back up and restore your ctrlX core. Imagine your ctrlX has all the apps and all the data which you want. You can quickly back it up and make a file on your computer, and you can restore it in case of any problems. Very easy. The important part of this video is about data layer. Now, data layer is where all the data of this ctrlX is stored. And this data can be distributed among different apps. So we're going to see one of the examples for the PLC apps, how important data layer is. Then you have normal functions like date time, information, shutdown, scheduler. You can also schedule your apps or tasks. Then you have a storage. So at the moment, if I go inside, I have a 3 GB of storage, out of which 2 GB is free, 2 or 2.25. All right. So you can also install or more programs or more apps based on how much space do you have. Then certificate and keys. This is an important part when you're talking about OPC UA, because in this case, you need to have certificates. So you can manage your certificates in these options. And user and permissions. In this case, you can install or add more users. You can add more groups. So you can define different users and different operations for them. So one can be a user who can just visualize the data. One can also change the data. One can also change the apps. Such kind of permissions you can define in this users and permission. And everything is graphical user interface. And then you have connectivity, and there is where you can define the IP address of your Ethernet port. So at the moment, IPv4 is defined 192.168.0.107. This is defined in my ctrlX. You can also define certain securities, or you can see certain configurations. All these things you can do in this connectivity. Okay. And then in the end, you also have a proxy server. So in case if your organization is using some proxy servers, you can also define that here, and it will add another layer of security for your applications. And last but not the least, you have SSH terminal access, which you can also use to access BOSH X from different terminal devices or terminal softwares. All right, this is about the basic settings. What we're going to do in this video, so we have seen how we can log into ctrlX, change the IP address, see different things inside it. Let's start with the first app. We're going to talk about today ctrlX Core PLC App. So you're going to use this ctrlX Core as a PLC. In this case, amazing thing is you just need to install an app, which is available on ctrlX Store. So the key feature of this app is it is using a runtime environment of codices. So if you are well familiar with codices programming, you can program this controller right away. So this ctrlX PLC engineering is an app or a software which you can use to program the ctrlX. We're going to see that in a couple of seconds. Secondly, there is a secure communication between the ctrlX core and the software. So you need a login ID and password to write the algorithm. Last but not the least, you can monitor your data using ctrlX data layer. So we're going to see these things in a couple of seconds. So let's see what you can do with this PLC app, how ctrlX can act as a PLC. One of the example is here. Your ctrlX core is here, and this is communicating with ctrlX IO via EtherCAT. So you can also have additional hardware devices as an input. It could be digital input, digital output, analog inputs and outputs to ctrlX core. And then you can communicate via EtherCAT, and you can read the inputs, write an algorithm, write the outputs. Similarly, you can control to ctrlX drive for motion control applications. Furthermore, you can have ctrlX HMI to monitor the data, and ctrlX device portal to monitor other applications. Now, because in this video I only use ctrlX core, I do not have ctrlX IOS or ctrlX drive, I'm going to simulate a PLC application using a 3D visualization software. In this case, let's imagine we have a task. We want to write a PLC algorithm for an application in which I'm controlling 3 axes, X, Y, Z, as you can see in this image. So I'm going to send the data out from my ctrlX core to this software via OPC UA, in which I'm using OPC UA app as well. And I'm going to read the feedback of the system in the PLC. So very simple. All you have to do is you can open your Home tab, and there you see your PLC application. Now this tab will come once if your PLC app is already installed. So once it's installed, you will see this window, and then you have to click on PLC engineering. And once you do that, it will download the app and it will run ctrlX engineering software on your computer. And this software is much easier to program. All you have to do is, okay, let me just allow the access. So at the moment, I already have this program running inside this PLC app. So I'm just going to explain you quickly how this program is working, and we will see the result in our visualization software, which I'm using as Factory.io. So this is the software which I'm using. Let me just open my environment, which I want to control. So this is my environment, and if I show you my drivers, this is already connected as an OPC UA client to OPC UA server of my Bosch. So if you see here IP address, it's 192.168.0.107. That's the OPC UA servers already running inside ctrlX. Okay, so I have defined some IOs, and in this case, if I run this environment, you will notice I have defined 3 positions. This is my first position, and then I have my second position. So what is happening when I'm pressing this button? There is an algorithm inside ctrlX which is driving the outputs, which I'm going to show you shortly. So we have 3 positions here, and when we have home positions. So if I go to online here, you will notice I have to enter my ID and password, which is again Bosch Rexroth. This is add an additional layer of security that only authorized user is allowed to work on that. Now I'm online, and you can see that I have an algorithm just like we program in codesys. So I have my global variables defined in named as FIO. These are my global variables. And then I have my PLC program here with some local variables and an algorithm. So what is happening in this algorithm? We have some, let me open this device again. So we have 4 inputs. So I'm just reading these inputs and I'm executing a sequence. So it's very easy. If you're familiar with PLC programming, you know how you can make some sequence. So this input is having a rising edge trigger. This is a local variable which will read the rising edge of my Factory.io input, which is this one. So at every rising edge, I'm running a sequence. So sequence 1 is step position 1, step position 2, and step position 3. So if you see my global variables over here, I can split the window and I can show you how this is happening. So I press the first button. You can see it's true here. And these values are coming out of ctrlX core, going by OPC UA to the software. So we have position X, Y, Z as a feedback and O position X, Y, Z as an output. So this is my output and that's my feedback. And if you want to see that here, I can also show you as a feedback, like for Z position, X position, and Y position. Okay, so here if I go for position 3, this is my output, and that's the feedback which is coming from the software. So OPC UA is helping me to combine these software together. This is just for explanation. You can have a real-time hardware in your application and still use PLC app to control the algorithm. So the idea of showing this video is how easy it is to use your PLC programming in ctrlX and control your applications. So ctrlX is right now acting as a PLC. Okay. Now, interesting thing is you can visualize this data in the data layer. So let's go back to my ctrlX and I go to settings, and here you can see data layer, which I told you I will come back to that. Click on this one, and now this data layer is based on nodes. So if you see, this is my PLC here. I can open my PLC and then I can open my app, and inside this I can open my application, and my applications are defined in my system, and then I have FIO, and this is the global variable which we define in the app here, FIO. So this global variable I can read and write in the software. So inside this I can see I have all these variables here. So data layer allows you to read and write the data on this global variables. For example, this is right now home, and this is my feedback 9.14. And if I again go here and try to move my gantry, and you can see the feedback. Oops, I made an accident. Wait a second. I bring back here. Now you can see it's 0, position X is 0. And if I move it here, it will show you the position of X. So data layer also allows you to read and write the data right there on the browser. And this data layer we're going to use in the next task, which is about visualizing this data on Node-RED dashboard. In this next task, we install Node-RED app in ctrlX, and in this Node-RED, we know that if you're familiar with the Node-RED, we can write some flows, we can read the data, write the data, make a dashboard. So you can also visualize the data just by installing the app. So in this case, let's see how we can do that. We go back to our browser, and there we can select Node-RED on the left side. And if you see, this Node-RED has two options, flow editor and dashboard. And we know that we have to first define some flows, and then we can visualize that in our dashboards. So let's click flow editor. And this will open an interface similar to Node-RED. And you can see on the left, it says Node-RED for ctrlX. And I have a node here which is already reading the data. So I will delete this one for you and take a fresh node. So on the left side, you will see data layer request and data layer subscribe. So you have two ways to read-write the data. So data layer requests can help you to read and write the data, and subscribe, you can subscribe to the data and read the values. So let's go for subscribe. Subscribe will help you to reduce your network traffic. So I take this node out here, and inside this node, you will see I have already defined a name, iPOSX. So this was just a name, and my device IP address. This is the IP address of ctrlX Core. So you have a device name. If you want to change it, you can click on this pencil icon and you can put the address here. And then you have a username and a password. Okay, once you do that, you can come back and define a name for this. So just to change the name, I will put FIO, factory IO, iPOSX, and update. And then you have a path to define. So when you click on this icon here, you will see this data layer automatically shown here in a tree form. And this is the same data layer which you will see otherwise in your settings and data layer. And here you can see which data you want to read. So if I go to my PLC and my app, application system, FIO, I position X. So that's my path. The same path in Node-RED, it will make it easy for you to open the PLC again from here. And then you have applications, and then system, FIO, and I have my input which I want to read is I position X. So if I select this, you will see this path is defined here. And this is the same path you can also copy from here, and you can paste here. Simple as that. That's all you need to do. Click on done and click on deploy. Now it is starting to subscribe to the value of I position X. Just to verify, I take a debug node and connect that to this debug node, and now I can visualize my data here. Let's try. So this is my data which is subscribed, and I can change the data by going to home position, and you will see the data is coming here, 0.1 and 0, because this has some timing to read the data. So you will see the data once it's coming to the core. And now if I go to the third position, you will see the feedback coming. So right now the feedback is 9.14. You can see the feedback here, and my arm is here. So that's how you can read the data of X-axis. Very similar, you can read the data for Y-axis and Z-axis. So I will just copy paste these nodes, and instead of X, I can just type Y because I know that's my variable. And here I can put Z. Otherwise, you can also see that it's just the change in the last character, X, Y, Z. So that's my three inputs, and I can copy paste this debug nodes to visualize all X, Y, and Z. Very simple, very easy. You can see how quickly you can do that. So again, I go to this position, and now you have feedbacks from X, Y, Z. All right. If you want to visualize this feedback, it's also very easy. All you have to do is you have to make sure you have a dashboard nodes installed, and just take a text node outside 3 times, and let's write it as iPOSX, and this is my payload, and I need to define some group. So in this case, I can go to my dashboard, I make a new tab, and I rename this tab to, let's say, ctrlX Core. And in this tab, I need a group where we organize these text. So I will say PLC data, and now I can put this text output into my PLC data. Very easy. And this one I rename as iPOSY, done, and this one as I pose Z. All right, so just put this node outside your values, outside the data layer, at the output of data layer, and you have your data coming in fraction of seconds. There we go. Downloading, deploy, and now let's check it out. Our dashboard coming out from here, and you have X, Y, Z. So now if I move my arm, you will see the values are generated here. Super easy. And if you want to clean up these values, it's very easy. You can just write a function inside a Node-RED in ctrlX as well. Very easy. I can show you a small example. I will type message.payload is equal to message.payload dot to fixed, and I can define how many digits I need after my decimal point. This will clean up the data I want to send. So copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. 5 seconds and you have your values cleaned up. Here we go. And now you will see values in a quite decent way. So these are the feedback coming from my environment directly on the Node-RED dashboard, which is installed in ctrlX Core. How amazing is that? First you write a PLC algorithm just by installing the app, then you install Node-RED app, then you can write some flows and visualize your data. Fraction of a second, everything is done. So this was about the video content, how you can use PLC app and Node-RED app, also OPC UA inside, to visualize your factory data. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you like this video. In the next video, we will see how we can use ctrlX Core as an MQTT broker. So we will work with MQTT by installing MQTT app inside and play around with ctrlX Core. So thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.